Hello and welcome. This is Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. This video is an introduction to the MERN stack. And the MERN stack is a full stack framework designed for building robust, scalable, dynamic applications entirely with JavaScript. Okay. So MERN stands for MERN stands for Mongo database. E for Express. Okay, Express is a backend framework. R is for React. React is a front end framework. And Node is basically the JavaScript engine that runs on the back end with Express, right? Runs on the back end with Express. Now, real quick, as far as, what is a stack? A stack is kind of a group of related technologies, or I really not necessarily say related technologies, but just technologies that kind of fit together really well, okay? And usually someone kind of experiments with different things, right? And certain stacks become very popular. So the MERN stack has become very popular, okay? So the MERN stack is about JavaScript everywhere, okay? So Mongo, Express, React, and Node all use JavaScript or a JSON-like format. JSON stands for JavaScript object notation, right? So they all use JavaScript or a JSON-like format, and data flows from the database to the user screen without needing to translate into different languages, okay? In a lot of traditional applications usually had, like on your front end, you did HTML and JavaScript and maybe some other things as well. Your back end would be different, and so you had to do things to convert your back end into your front end code. Whereas with the MERN stack, everything's it's JavaScript everywhere, right? So it makes that that synergy is a much more easier to handle, and it works a lot easier of a flow, so to speak. So let's talk about a modern three-tier architecture. So a modern three-tier architecture is a front end, a back end, and a database. Okay, and in the case of the MERN stack, the front end, which is your display tier, this is going to be React, right? And this is the dynamic user interface that users interact with. Your backend application tier is used. The main framework there is going to be Express, but it runs within the Node environment, right? Because Node's not really a language or a framework. It's an environment, right? It's a runtime environment. It's actually the JavaScript engine that kind of runs in a Chrome browser. Which is called V8. That is the same JavaScript engine that Node uses and runs on the back end. Okay, and that's what Express depends on. Without Node, Express wouldn't be able to do what it does, right? And then on the back end, not the back end, but the database tier. We got the Mongo database, okay? And this stores and manages all application data. So now let's go in a little more in depth. It's going to be a very high level presentation, but we're going to go, a little bit more in depth into these different areas. So Mongo database. So the database is a cross-platform. It's called a document-oriented NoSQL database. So in the context of the MERN stack, NoSQL stands for not only SQL, and it refers to a type of database that stores data in a non-tabular format. Unlike traditional relational databases like MySQL and SQL Server that use rigid table rows and columns, okay? NoSQL databases are designed to be flexible and scalable. You can pretty much put anything in there. You put it in there as a document. It's a document-oriented database, and you just put that in as a document. So it's pretty flexible about what you can store there. Okay. It uses a JSON-like structure, so documents look almost exactly like JSON objects, which makes it easy for JavaScript developers to read and use because JavaScript developers are used to kind of using JSON in their development, right? Mongo's also highly scalable, so NoSQL database can handle massive amounts of data by dividing it across several different machines, right? Several different servers, so to speak, and it's a process known as horizontal scaling. So why use NoSQL for web apps? Well, one thing is speed. Being document oriented makes it easy to index and retrieve specific documents quickly. As far as growth, if your application suddenly gets millions of users, NoSQL is designed to scale out across more servers much more easily than traditional databases. And developer experience. Because the data is already in a format that JavaScript understands, JSON, there is no need for complex translation layers between your database and your code. So here's kind of an example. So here this is a command that you use to insert a document. Okay, db.collection. You're going to create a collection name. We're going to get all into this, later on, not today, obviously, but within this course, we'll be doing a lot of this. Okay, so here you're going to create collections, and this is just saying this is what you're going to put a collection name there. You don't call it collection name, so it's the collection name that you created. So the name of the collection, and you can do different commands: insert, update, delete. Right. So in this case, you're doing an insert. You're inserting this document, giving it an ID. An ID is always required. An ID, a name, a department, an organization. Right. So this is just the different. You can have all kinds of different fields. Here depends on your data, right? How you decide to do things. So in this case, you got a name, department, and organization, right? And then this is how you create that, insert a document into MongoDB. As far as querying the data, here you just say based on the variable, based on the field that you called it. In this case, like name. If you want to find the one that has clause, you just do name equals clause, right? Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is Express. So Express is the framework that simplifies the back end. It runs on Node.js, right? And it provides the tools to create APIs and handle requests efficiently. It's asynchronous and single-threaded, which makes it very highly performant. So performance is very good, right? It also promotes reusable code through a built-in router and middleware support. So here's an example of Express code, and you're going to learn all of this in the upcoming weeks here. So here you've got an Express. Actually, we're going to do it a different way. This is doing a require. This is kind of the old way with that require. I'm going to show you a newer way to do it, a more modern approach for that. Okay, but here's just an example of creating a app, right? A web server, right? So this is going to actually run on port 8080, and this is kind of the standard way to do this. Okay, app.use. Now this is obviously a name that you give it. All these are names that you decide, right? Just like just like we do other JavaScript code. And but this is use is a very the preferred way here to do this, right? So this is going to actually set a header. This is a request and a response. And in the response, you're setting a status code, you're setting a header, and then all of your content is right here as well. Okay. And then you've just got a port here, and then you basically, when you run this from Node, and when you run this, it's going to log the server is running, okay? And then if you went ahead and brought it up, you would see the content being this is a test server, right? And we're gonna spend a lot of time getting into Express, so you'll learn all about that here, like I said, in the coming weeks. Okay, the front end library. Now we're talking about the front end. This is React, and React is a JavaScript library used for building dynamic and interactive user interfaces. Its standout feature is the virtual DOM. Okay, the virtual DOM is what it does. It actually creates a copy of the original DOM. And even though this might not sound really efficient, and be quicker, it is very much quicker, because when you change the DOM, it's very performance intense. You use a lot of resources within a browser when you're playing with the DOM, because it kind of regenerates everything, it re-renders everything. And the way React does it, it creates a copy of it, and then it makes updates to that as you go along, okay? And it has it's a special way that will actually end up in becoming much more efficient. And so in a lot of React stuff, React will update certain things on the page and not necessarily going to update everything, right? So it's a much more efficient and performant way to handle a front end, so to speak, okay? It uses a component-based architecture, meaning you can build your own UI from reusable pieces of code. And what you do within React is do what we call JSX files, right? And then basically they're an extension for JavaScript, okay? They're the HTML-like syntax extension for JavaScript. So once again, it's using JavaScript, just like the Express uses JavaScript. So does React use JavaScript, and the MongoDB uses like the JSON objects. Okay, they use the JSON objects, which is, converts very easily to JavaScript, right? So here's an example of some React code. So you're importing React from React. And I'm going to be doing next. I'll be doing a introduction to Node as well. And this introduction to Node is going to help you understand this a little better, because it's using packages, it's using what's called it's getting packages from the Node package manager, and that's what this is happening here, right? So we'll learn about that here down the road. But this is a simple React component written in JSX right here, where it's just saying hello developers, and then you're just rendering that out to the browser. Okay, Node.js. So once again, Node.js, you're not really writing Node.js code, right? You're writing React code, you write Express kind of code, right? Them are frameworks, right? React's a framework. React and Express are frameworks, right? But Node is basically JavaScript runtime environment, right? It's an open source environment that allows you to run JavaScript code on the server outside of the browser, okay? It has fast code execution. It's built on top of Google's Chrome V8 JavaScript engine. It's highly scalable. It follows a single-threaded, non-blocking I/O model, ideal for data-intense applications. And using the Node package manager, it has a vast ecosystem. It provides access to thousands of free packages, which are called Node modules, and we can download them, and you're going to learn how to download them as well. So here's this really, like I said, Node is not a framework or anything. So this is just basically, this is JavaScript, and it's just saying that you can run JavaScript on the server, right? And you do that by just, and we'll be doing that when we're saying within the server. We can also run it within Visual Studio Code, okay? And so we'll see that as well, okay? The whole thing is you're running applications outside of the browser, okay? So we're going to run it right in Visual Studio Code in the terminal, so we're running it outside of the browser, okay? This slide really doesn't help with much. It's, this is just a JavaScript, a couple of JavaScript functions, and you're calling it, and it's just really Node can go ahead and execute this, right? Okay, putting it all together here. So in a MERN application, the flow is simple. So a user interacts with the React UI, which sends an HTTP request to the Express node server, okay? And the server queries the Mongo database, which sends back the data in JSON format to be displayed to the user, okay? So let's talk about the power of a unified stack. So full stack JavaScript uses a single language for both the client side and the server side development, increasing efficiency and reducing context switching. Okay. If you were using some other languages on the back end, say, C#, Java, or some other language, right? You'd have to do all kinds of other things in between to convert that into something that the front end, the browser understands, okay? With using just JavaScript, it makes it a lot easier, okay? High performance. So because of Node.js, Node.js is non-blocking, and we'll discuss what these things mean a little bit more when we get into the Node video on this as well. So it's non-blocking, event-driven, and that, coupled with Express, ensures the application performs well, even under high loads. It's highly scalable, right? Mongo's database, flexible schema, and Node.js ability to handle concurrent connections make MERN an excellent choice for scalable application. It's developer-friendly, React's component-based architecture, and Express's simplified routing create a productive and enjoyable development experience. So to master the stack, you're going to start with the foundations of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which everybody in this course has already been through that class as well. So, but then from there, you can build your way up. Become really good at React for the UI. Also, become very proficient in Express and Node for the server, and then learn Mongo database for the data. All with one language, right? The possibilities for building the next generation of web apps are infinite. Okay. So that's all I have on this. Just want to do a kind of quick little introduction to the MERN stack. Next, we'll go ahead and look into break some things down a little bit. We'll go ahead and do an introduction to Node, because from the beginning of this course, we're going to be kind of using Node a little bit at the beginning. And so you need to learn that. And a lot of you've already had a little bit of an introduction to some of these as well already, but we still need to kind of, at least, if nothing else, need a little bit of a review. And then in addition to that, another thing we're going to be using here is in this course. So the past courses that we did, we kind of just used JavaScript. So we're going to be using TypeScript. And so TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. So you're going to be learning that as well. So that's all I have. Please let me know if you have any questions, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.